Hey everyone, it's Andrew, and we're going to start the design process on the mini pendant tutorial. So for this piece, we're going to be using a cabochon because I figure a lot of you guys have access to cabochons. I'll do a faceted one later, but it's basically going to be the same process for a faceted stone if you're going to be using like a larger cut or something. And I'm also going to be using these smaller 2.5 millimeter accent garnets that'll be running along the side of here. I'm going to do kind of a design that I've done a lot of before. Something that I think is generally pretty easy for mini pendants. First off, you always want to start by tracing your center stone, of course. And then I'm going to be doing pretty curvy design. It's going to be just all swirls. Have the bail come up here. Going to do kind of my classic accent where I have another wire come around the side, curl off into the back of the pendant, and then I always have a little weave going there. This is kind of similar to, the drawing out a pendant video. I believe I've done one kind of like this. And then what I'm going to do with this wire is I'm actually going to have it curve up around the outside and come around over here and kind of, actually that's a little too shy. Have it come around up here, come down the side there. That'll weave up, and then we'll have other wires coming out of here to continue that curve. The drawing is always a rough draft. More of the detailing comes out when you finally get into the detailing aspect of the pendant. But drawing out, I always do like to plan where I'm going to have wires going off, kind of where they start and then where I want them to eventually continue. But yeah, so we'll continue on here. I might extend that bail. Actually, I know what the problem is. I'm going to have this curve in just slightly more. My drawings never are as perfect as I'd like them to be, but it's always a good starting point. And then I'm going to draw where our accents will go. They'll, of course, kind of be started off in this channel that will come over the cabochon. So we're going to erase a section there. Alrighty, so be where accents will go. I never realized how hard the lines were to pick up on this camera. And then in here, we'll have to figure out what we're going to do. We could just fill it with wire. We could just weave there, and then yeah, we'll just weave across here. We'll have another wire come out of here. You'll see that when we get into the actual detailing, but we'll leave that to one of the wires over here, and that'll allow us to set another wire there. That'll kind of just give us another little swirly detail right there, if you can see. And so there's the start for the drawing. And so this will give us a good basis on how to start this piece. And like I was mentioning, you always kind of want to plan out where you're going to be starting your wires, tying them down, and then drawing them out from there. So then the next step will be drawing out the frame onto this design. We're going to want to allow some light to come through this cabochon. So we're going to do a circle, come down to the bottom of the frame, and then continue doing an outline. That's a bit, it's not wide enough. Let's widen this left side. Continue that all the way up to the top, where we'll have the top of our frame. Then bring that down. So obviously as we build in here and, you know, as we're building on this frame, we'll be covering in and moving our wires to make sure we cover all of that frame. And our supports on there, and then we'll be ready to start the build process. Alright guys, we're going to jump right on into the soldering segment of this tutorial. As always, safety first. Make sure you have some sort of respirator or mask to keep those fumes away from you. Even one of these little guys will do just fine. Then today we're going to be using Argentium silver, so we won't be needing flux or solder. Argentium has germanium mixed in with it, so it has an ability to fuse to itself. And so we just won't be needing any of those things when we solder with it today. And so some of the other things I've got on my desk are my bench anvil for hammering it down, and then also, you know, my pliers, my wire cutters. These are ceramic bricks that I like versus the charcoal blocks. These don't indent, like they do get scorched, but they don't kind of curve in like the charcoal bricks do. So I prefer using these. You do need to replace them every once in a while, but you know, they're really not that expensive. They're maybe like 12 bucks a piece or something, so it's not that bad. And so when we get started, we're going to be wanting our design pretty close by, because we're going to want to make sure that you know, we're kind of following our shape and, you know, placing our frames where we are, our supports where we need them. So we're just going to jump right on into it. So first, we're going to start straightening out the wire. Even when I'm making circles, I like to just start off with a straight wire. I also recommend doing this somewhere where you either have really good ventilation or you have a fan set up, like an exhaust fan. I have an industrial fan set up on the other side of my office, but you know, I unfortunately can't really record over there. But that also helps keep those fumes just out of your house and out of your smoke detectors, because, you know, when I solder over here, the smoke detector has a bad habit of going off, and so hopefully that doesn't happen during the making of this video. I'm going to start off making just a small loop where we'll end up setting that cabochon on. And you want it to be just a little bit smaller than that cab's going to be. So we've got the outline of the cab on there. The inside, we're going to check it. Okay. There we go. Oh yeah, it's perfect. That'll just allow some light to travel through and illuminate that cab from the back. It's kind of the same concept when you do faceted stones and you want to let the light travel through. Just going to straighten that out a bit more before we fuse this. I guess make it a bit more round, not really straighten that out. You don't straighten out circles, do you? Okay, mask on. I always give it little taps with my pliers before pulling it off, just because the Argentium can sometimes be just a little unstable when it's cooling, and so you don't want to just pull it right off when it's hot. I mean, obviously you want to get it in the water while it's still warm, but if you go to pull it off right after soldering, you're going to pull the long part of the wire off, and what you've soldered is going to be still attached to the base down here. I've done that a bunch of times, and it's quite frankly annoying. So what I've done is I've taken my Argentium and I've bent it along the outline that I've drawn over my design. And so starting to get the shape of the frame going here, and we're going to attach the first support onto this. Probably wondering why I have a lighter. It's because my torch's igniter doesn't work, and so I have to strike it with the lighter to get it to, go. And then I like to flatten it after I attach that first support. Just kind of makes everything a bit more even. And then it also helps it lay flat when I'm putting the other supports on there. And so what we're going to continue to do now is shape that other side of the outline. And what I like to do is I like to use the same side that I used before, because then it just kind of keeps both sides the same. It keeps the frame a bit more balanced. And so what I mean by that is, I shaped this side on the right side of the drawing. And so now I'm going to, when I put it back on the drawing to shape it, I'm going to put it this way and shape this side on that way. And shape this side, on the right side of the drawing. And then I'm going to measure my supports on this wire and clip them off. Do be careful just putting your hands back on this surface because it's hot, obviously. I'm being conscious of where I've been soldering and stuff so I don't burn myself. I've done that enough to learn. I'm doing my hammering off screen. I do apologize for that. It's just a little loud for the camera and stuff. And so we flattened up the top here as well. We're going to add one more support, and then we're also going to refuse these just to make sure they're really good and on there. As you saw when I was heating this one up, it kind of shifted on there. I think the center part was raised a bit more still, and so, I mean, that happens a lot when I'm making these frames, and that's why it's good to have a good pair of fire pliers to, help you readjust when that's on there. I'm going to give it one more final run over with the heat just to make sure all the joints are soldered, and then we'll be ready to clip these off and file it down. So we're going to clip off those ends. All right. Move the scrap bucket. And so now we're going to solder down all these other, we're going to file down these rough edges here. And so you can get really any group of files. I just got kind of the basic set of files. I really need to up my file game, I guess, and get more sets of them, get various degrees of grits and stuff. I mean, I have a few different grits on my rotary tool station here, but, you know, I need to expand everything for sure. And so when I do the filing, I like to file into the cup and wear a respirator as well. I mean, you don't really need to wear a respirator if you're not, don't put your face right over it, but there are little particles of silver flying around, so I honestly recommend that you wear a respirator. I've seen some jewelers not, and I mean, you know, that is your choice, but I think you should. And so, I'm going to get into that. Take a little bit of burr life. You can get this on Rio Grande as well, and it's a lubricant for your rotary burrs and then also your files, and it helps make things a little bit smoother, and it honestly makes the process a little bit faster as well. The way I like to file these edges is by having kind of what was the back of the frame when I soldered it, you know, kind of facing away from me, and then filing it down that way. Make sure you guys can see that. You know, obviously you can file back and forth, but that's the basic direction I like to go. That just helps me kind of get it flat down really quick. Okay, everyone, here we are. We have our finished frame. Now we're going to give it a good old polish. So I suggest you've watched my polishing video before. We're going to use the bristle disc, you know, arrangement. We're going to progress from yellow. We're going to progress from yellow. We're going to go to blue, and then go to pink, and then down to green. I generally skip these two. I can't really tell you why. I don't know why I do. I've noticed they don't really make too much of a difference between here. If you're trying to buffer out really deep scratches, like, tool marks on the back, then I do suggest that you use this one and also this one, because it'll help you progress over those deep scratches. But if you're just doing a general polish, those ones are fine. Oh, as we spill it all everywhere. Voila, there we go. We have a shiny frame ready to rock and roll. I hope you guys enjoyed this first part of the tutorial, and then stick around for the next part. That'll be coming out next week as we progress through this and I get everything edited. Thanks, guys.